Canterbury is one of the most fairy tale-esque towns in England, located only an hour southeast of London. It was a pilgrimage site in the Middle Ages with ancient walls that were originally built by the Romans that encircled its medieval city center. I think it's an absolute must-add to any trip to England, as I always want to encourage people to see things outside of London. As incredible as London is, there is so much more to England than just its capital city, so let me help you plan the perfect day trip from London to Canterbury with all the top things to do and see in Canterbury. First, we'll start with how to get there. There are direct trains from St. Pancras, Victoria, and Charing Cross stations, so whichever one you're closest to is where I'd go, of course. If St. Pancras is relatively close to you, I'd recommend taking that train as it's only 57 minutes, and the other two stations are about 1.5 hours to an hour and 45 minutes, so it will save you some time. You can go to either station, Canterbury East or Canterbury West. They're both only a few minute walk to the city center, so obviously it doesn't really matter which one. Price will depend on the day and time you're going, plus how far in advance you book, of course, but I'd say on average it will be anywhere from 29 to 41 pounds round trip if you do not have a rail card, or 19 to 27 pounds round trip if you do have a rail card. If you don't know what I'm talking about when I say the word rail card, please watch this video where I go into extreme detail about everything you need to know about taking trains in the UK, like what a rail card is, how to buy one, how to book train tickets, and so much more. If you plan on taking a few train journeys in the UK, it's absolutely worth getting because it'll save you over 30% off on all your train tickets, and you'll make your money back real quick. Now let's talk about when to go, which is honestly hard to predict anything based on weather here in the UK, but it's definitely more of a spring and summer destination in my opinion, because the ideal thing to do, which I'll chat more about in the next section, is walk the gardens along the river with flowers in full bloom and go punting on the river, both of which would not really be enjoyable on a gray or rainy day, but I do understand you might be visiting England during another time of year, so just if you have some flexibility, I'd try to plan this day trip for the sunniest or the least rainiest day if that's possible. Now let's dive into the top things to do in Canterbury, starting with arguably the most iconic site in the city, the Canterbury Cathedral, which was founded in 597 AD. It's the headquarters of the Church of England and the Anglican Communion, incorporating Gothic and Romanesque elements in its stone carvings with stained glass windows. It cost £27 to enter, which I opted not to do because I think that's crazy expensive for a cathedral, but at least admiring it from the outside is a must. Next, we have the Westgate Towers and Museum, which is a medieval gatehouse that stands 60 feet high. This western gate of the city is the largest surviving city gate in England, originally built by the Romans in 300 AD and then rebuilt in 1380. If you arrive at the Canterbury West train station, it's a really cool welcome into the city because it's literally the first thing that you see, and it costs £4 to enter if you want to go up the tower. Right next to the towers, you have the Westgate Gardens, which is my personal favorite spot in Canterbury. Again, this will depend on the weather, but we were lucky. We had a nice sunny day. The gardens were in full bloom, and it was just so lovely walking along the river here, and it's the most iconic shot you normally see of Canterbury on social media, so spend some time walking along here, hanging out in the park, and getting some great photos. While you're here in the garden, you can either watch punting along the river or partake in it. Punts are flat-bottomed boats, and you move by pushing off the riverbed using a big, long pole, usually around 15 feet in length. It's a very English thing to do, especially here in Canterbury, Oxford, and Cambridge. So if you are visiting any of these places on your trip to England, make sure to try it at least once. In Canterbury, it typically costs about £16 per person. From here, you'll make your way down Parade Lane, which is the main road in the city center, filled with pubs, restaurants, and shops. So really take your time admiring the views since everything is so cute and fairy tale-esque here, popping into any shop that catches your eye. Right in the heart of the city, along Parade Lane, you'll find the Beanie House of Art and Knowledge. It's a central museum, library, and art gallery, and it is free to enter if you'd like to go inside and walk around. If not, just admire it from the outside because it really is such a stunning building. Another super cute lane right off of Parade Lane is Butchery Lane. It's a small street, but it's super cute, more of a photo op with older, charming buildings on both sides and the Canterbury Cathedral right in the middle. If you walk up Butchery Lane and then turn left on Burgate, which is where Butchery Lane ends, you'll stumble across Christ Church Gate, which is a highly decorated ceremonial gatehouse originally built to celebrate the marriage of Arthur, Prince of Wales, to Catherine of Aragon in 1502, and it is the entrance gate to Canterbury Cathedral, so you can walk through this gate and get the view of the cathedral for free, but you can't actually enter the cathedral without paying, as I mentioned before. Canterbury Castle is one of the 3 original royal castles of Kent. Construction began in 1070 by William the Conqueror and was finished in 1135 under the reign of King Henry I. Today it definitely seems more like ruins, not like a proper castle, as it's not fully intact, but you can really see how old the building is, which is really cool to see. Next up is the Crooked House, which is one of the most photographed historic buildings in the city. The wonky structure is also known as Sir John Boyes House, named in memory of Sir John Boyes, an MP and the first recorder of Canterbury. It's more of just a cool photo op to walk by and snap a photo of. If you keep walking up from here, you'll go to the Parrot Pub, which is the oldest pub and one of the oldest buildings in Canterbury, which was established in 1370, and Geoffrey Chaucer mentioned it in his Canterbury Tales. The food is a bit pricey here, so I'd recommend maybe just grabbing a pint and enjoying the atmosphere. And lastly, we have the Goods Shed, which is right next to the Canterbury West train station. Honestly, this isn't a must-see in my opinion. Normally, I love food markets and they're always on the top of my must-see recommendation list, but this one is mostly like products. Cheese, bread, vegetables, more like a farmer's market, not like prepared food that you could actually eat. So it's still cool to walk through and see everything, but don't expect to sit down and get a meal here. There is a bakery here, so you can grab coffee and pastry if you like, but other than that, it's more so ingredients. So as you can see, Canterbury is quite a small town. We spent about 3 hours here and an hour of that was in the pub, but I definitely think it's worth coming as a day trip from London because it's just so charming, so quaint, so quintessentially English, and it's one of my absolute favorite day trips. One of my other favorite day trips from London that I think is an absolute must on any England itinerary is to Oxford. So let's take a look at my top things to do in Oxford.